Hi, everyone, and welcome to the sharing group, y'all. I am so excited about today's guest. Today's lesson of A Course in Miracles is lesson 105, which states God's peace and joy are mine. God's peace and joy are mine. And our next guest has learned how to enjoy the peace and joy of God after her near death experience. Hospice nurse Michelle Ledbetter encountered a profound sense of clarity and liberation from her own self imposed prison after her near death experience, revealing that the keys to freedom had always been within her. We are in for a treat, y'all. So, Michelle, I'm so very happy to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. And wow, what a beautiful intro. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I was telling you, you're the first guest after the break from social
Yeah.
media. So I'm so excited to have you and honored that you're with us today. So, Michelle, you have had a very rich experience before your near death experience. And I think it's important for you to share those things because a lot of your downloads have come from that experience. I'm so excited. So I want you to go ahead and start us where you think is most appropriate about that. And yeah, we'll go from there.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much for having me. And I'm so grateful that the universe allowed our paths to cross. Can't make it up. It's so beautiful.
Yes.
So my name is Michelle Ledbetter. I am a registered nurse. I'm also certified in hospice and palliative care. I have two beautiful daughters, and I have four grandchildren and two bonus grandchildren. And I had a altered reality experience after an automobile accident. It's been a little over 6 years ago. It was 6 years ago in February, um, where I was shown some of in my life review. I had to go back through some really tough parts. So I think I'm going to start kind of in the beginning and just kind of let you know who I was before this accident.
Yeah.
And then that might be a good segue into how it kind of unfolded. So, in my early growing up years, my father was my primary caregiver. He raised me solely, and he had shared with me that my birth mother had passed at,
Mhm.
during birth. However, that story wasn't quite true. When I was 7 years old, he ended up marrying a beautiful woman, and she became my mom. But when I turned 14, my birth mother called me. And so, coming up in a family where it's just a man who was raising me, and he had some of his own deep wounds, was very disconnected from God and source,
Mhm.
was very just disconnected from himself. And so he operated in that realm, and he was abusive in ways. There was physical abuse and verbal abuse. And bless his heart, what I know today is that he was just, again, disconnected. He was doing the best he could with what he had.
Mhm.
And then there was some sexual abuse that happened from my new mother's family members. And so by the time I was 14 and I got this phone call, I was very much looking through the world with distorted lenses, if you will. I had a very hard time connecting with people. It wasn't something that I did very well. And I was an angry teenager. When all this came about, I was very angry. I met a beautiful soul when I was 17. We married the same month I turned 19, and I just thought it was a gift from God, and it was going to get me out of this environment that I grew up in. There was no love; was more of a performance based sort of thing. Affection was based on how well you did and that sort of thing, and I didn't really truly understand what unconditional love was. It wasn't something that was mirrored for me in my upbringing. So fast forward, I was I married a beautiful gentleman. We had two beautiful daughters. I was in that marriage for 18 years. And at that point, my skeletons from my past started to rise. And I didn't even really know that's what was happening. But what I began to feel was just, I couldn't ever seem to be satiated, almost like a hole in my love cup. Something would come and I would feel great joy, but it was always fleeting. And I always felt like there's got to be something more here than what we're doing. And I was very average. I had, the two daughters. I went to nursing school. I had been married, but there was just a hole in my love cup that I couldn't quite fill. I ended up leaving that marriage and worked in hospice on and off. I've been a hospice nurse for over 20 years. And I decided to take a travel assignment to do something kind of new and get out of the town that I was in. And when I was on that travel assignment is when I had my automobile accident. So I was traveling from Montana to a new assignment in Texas, and I was in a snowstorm. And the snowstorm was so severe that the snow was blowing sideways. Now, let me back up a second and let you know also, I was not good at feeling emotion. So where, as I grew up, we got engaged in alcohol and it was just a social sort of thing, but it became more of um, a barrier for me because I couldn't feel those wounds. I couldn't look at those emotions. Alcohol was something that I partaked in more than I should have. And then also like things like Xanax and to help me sleep. And so I was in that kind of realm. And the people that I was hanging out with, that we were all kind of the same. So I felt I was kind of normal, but again, I felt like something was just missing. So on my assignment, when I was in Montana, I had ran out of the Xanax. And as a nurse, you would think that I would know that you don't stop medication like that abruptly, but I did not know. And so I had stopped the medication about 4 days prior because I had run out of that prescription. And what I know now, and it took me a few years before I was actually able to untangle that piece of it too, but I ended up having a seizure from the withdrawal of the Xanax. And that's what ultimately caused the accident. But it was the truck lights, the red truck lights that I was looking at because of the snow. That was the only thing I could see. And those red lights triggered, I think, that seizure.
Wow.
And so the truck went up over an embankment and I went off the embankment. When I came down, I had an L1 burst fracture, a broken spine, and a traumatic brain injury. And the first thing I remember is waking to the paramedics getting me from the car. And I was kind of in and out. But at that point, there was just such a profound sense of peace. And I did not even recognize it because my altered reality near death experience was so disturbing that I could not even remember how beautifully I was held when I should have been probably so frightened. So I call mine an altered reality experience because I did not die. My heart did not stop. My brain continued to function in some capacity for me to be able to have this awareness of what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
So again, back to the when I was first found, I had a profound sense of peace. The people that were helping me were just angelic. They were so kind. The paramedics took me to the first hospital facility where they did some imaging and they recognized that my spine fracture was very unstable and they needed to do emergent surgery, but they had to transfer me over to a trauma unit to do that. I had no fear until when I was in the first hospital. They said they were going to have to, I was traveling with my little dog and they said they were going to have to impound my little dog. And so that was the first time I felt a little, oh, this is a little scary now. And then this angelic nurse that didn't know me at all comes around the corner and she said, don't worry about it, hon. I've got you. I'm going to take care of this dog for you until you get out. I know, right? And in that moment, it was, I swear I could see her wings. It was like, a human in an
Wow.
angel in human form. And the surgeon came in and told me that we had to do the surgery right away. And he had shared with me that he had done something like 10 surgeries. And the panic came a little bit again then. Tried to talk him out of it, but he said we didn't have time. So I don't remember anything after that. I don't remember going to the OR. And those two first paramedics that picked me up that were so amazing, they came to the second hospital with this little gift basket before I went into surgery and this ugly little stuffed dog since I had to give my dog away in these magazines. And it was just, I felt so held and so loved and so secure.
Mm.
And it was so beautiful, right?
Good.
Um, so between the time they put me to sleep in 5 days, I'm not sure exactly where this event happened. Somewhere in that time or during the whole time. Time is very elusive in this sort of thing.
Mm.
When I first walked into the it presented in a like a warehouse setting. The atmosphere was very gray in color. There was no color to it. It was cold. It was damp. It was just a foreign place. And I felt the presence of my children behind me. And when I turned to look at them, to invite them to come with me, I didn't know where I was taking them. There was no words exchanged, but they gave me this look. And what I heard in myself and what I heard being said to myself is, Mom, you messed this up and we're not interested. And so they walked away, went out this very big, heavy door that had a little window. And so I walked over, the door shut as they walked out, and I peeked through this window, and the land outside was very barren, like it had been mowed down by heavy equipment. And I began to panic. Fear started to rise in me, and I became very confused. And I thought, what in the world is happening? Why are they leaving me? Where am I? I had no recall of the accident in this when I was going through this. The next thing I know, I'm seeing my life review. And in my life review, I am actually back in it. So I am in the abusive situations, and the fear in me is so profound, it's hard for me to even explain it. I don't think I've ever had that much fear in regular life, but I was consumed by fear. And I was very confused. I could not understand what was happening, why I was having to live, you know, be in this stuff that was what I had already gone through. And so as I moved through that, and there were a lot of different like scenes that came in, but nothing was beautiful and bright and brilliant like you hear from other people that have had near death experiences. Um, Mine was very difficult. And so the next thing I remember, that kind of fades off for a second. And I see a patient of mine that I had worked with who was HIV positive, and he was on a bed and very distressed, very uncomfortable. It was a very gruesome sort of scene that I was looking at. And I thought to myself, we've got to find his partner to help him out. And then as I turned, like I was going to go look for his partner, another review started to come in. But this time it was about little girl, and I didn't know who she was.
Okay.
As her review started, I saw her traumatic childhood. And if you would ask me if mine was difficult, I would have said very, very difficult. When I saw hers, I realized there was, if you have to put a hierarchy on it, hers was much worse than mine.
Mm.
And I wasn't only in my spirit body, I was in her spirit body. So I am seeing it through the lens of her eyes. I'm feeling it through her emotion, her abuse that she's going through, but I'm also feeling my emotions of fear. It was just such a compounded, scary, confusing feeling. And then it went on to a little boy, and I didn't know who he was either. And the same sort of thing, very torturous childhood. He was bullied, he was made fun of, he had this mother figure that was not loving. He had abuse in his upbringing that I was exposed to. And so I am just completely overwhelmed with fear because I'm feeling my emotions of fear. I'm feeling their emotions and living through their childhood upbringing with them. And I was just so confused and so fearful. And then all of a sudden, the temperature started to change, and it started at my feet, and it was warm. It just started to kind of rise up my body, and I felt like a force to look up. And when I looked up on the ceiling of this warehouse, for lack of a better word, The tiles started to crack. And when the tiles started to crack, they lifted. And when they lifted, this brilliant white, orange, yellow light started to come in. So that was the first time I saw color. But I was so enmeshed in this fear that I was going through that I thought for sure I was in hell. It felt like hell. I couldn't imagine hell being any different. And so I thought that this light that was coming in was going to burn me. So I bent over, said some probably profanity, and it was just like, please make this so quick. And the next thing I remember is I'm kind of coming out of this, but I realize I'm laying in the hospital bed. And I look over in the corner, and there's this beautiful African American lady there. And I'm very confused. I'm still very afraid because I'm just coming out of what I went through. And I looked over at her and I said, "Who are you?" And she said, "I'm here to help you." And all of a sudden she starts to blend into my sister, who of course is Caucasian. And I didn't know this sister very well. She's a half sister that I had only met a couple times. And so when I saw her as family, I thought, oh, family's here, they can help me. And so I'm yelling at this lady, we got to get out of here. Help me, we got to get out of here. And so what I learned later is that because of the traumatic brain injury, they reserve using any kind of sedation because they want to make sure that your neuro is coming back. And so, because they couldn't use sedation, I was apparently acting out what I was going through. So, remember now, I just had that spinal surgery, 2 rods, multiple screws, and cemented together. And I was getting out of the bed, trying to run out of the hospital. So, they had to have physical people in there to keep me safe. Yeah. And so, that's why she was sitting in the room. But slowly, I started to be more in this reality, and that started to leave me. But there was no way in heck I was going to tell anybody about that because first of all, I didn't want people to know that I had been a bad person somehow and went to hell. Plus I was just so afraid, and reliving that was it definitely took me back. It took me back. And when I came, it was a very slow, long recovery. When I came home, I was on pain medication, of course, and I ended up getting addicted to that pain medication. And I started drinking, and I went through this hoopla for 2 years. And I was just so afraid the emotions would come up, the visions would come up, and I had to suppress it. I didn't know how to manage it. And so I recognize that now. I had struggled with alcohol for many years. And today I recognize that people don't become alcoholic because they are bad people. They don't know how to feel emotion. And so that is a coping mechanism, very dysfunctional, that helps people stay so they don't have to look at their junk in the trunk, as they say, right? I have so much compassion for people that are moving through that. I did that for 2 years. I had one big last hurrah that was with, I wanted to feel better and I was in so much pain. I started to drink some alcohol. And of course, that takes the pain off a little bit, takes that edge off. And I ended up just losing track of what I was doing and ended up passing out. And my daughter, it was just a very horrible. And after that happened, I realized I have got to do something here because there was no way I was going to continue moving on. So I was out of work. I couldn't go back to work. I tried to go back, but I went back to a little too soon and I just couldn't do it. My very best friend was dying of cancer and I had $8 in my account. And so it was just a very low time. And I was very fortunate in the fact that I was able to spend these magical moments with my best friend. We lived life to the fullest. He was living on borrowed time, and he really started to show me what it meant to be connected to the divine, what it meant to be connected to God. And I started paying attention. In my upbringing, I was exposed to the Catholic upbringing and Baptist, and both of my abusers were involved very much in the church. And so I had an aversion to God and that whole thing. I couldn't understand how a God would allow something like that to happen. So I moved through that time with my best friend. He really started to wake me up. He ended up passing away, and I still had no job. and I still had no money. So I was essentially forced to sit with myself. And so I wasn't going to look at the Bible and I wasn't going to do traditional prayer. So I thought, well, I'll try this meditation thing. So I didn't know what I was doing, but I just got real quiet and I just, started praying, to life. I couldn't say God at that point in my life, just because, again, I had that aversion, please help me. I can't continue going like this. And I was granted permission to look back at that situation in a softer way. And a, a download came in one day and it prompted me to ask the question, what is this trying to teach me? And how can I see this differently?
Mm.
So in that meditation, I went back to what I had been reviewing, and I went back to the little girl and to the little boy. And it was revealed to me during that meditation that those were my abusers. When that came to me, hold on, sometimes I lose it here. um, I, I had such a profound compassion going through it myself. And this unconditional love that I have never experienced just started to rise in me. And I couldn't help but extend it to them. And so after that happened, I did not even realize the weight of that I had been looking through wounded glasses, if you will, and that I couldn't connect with people. And I was constantly looking for people to validate me um, from outside. I did not recognize that the divine, that God is within. And so I had always looked to the outside to feel validation. And when this profound sense of unconditional love and compassion came over me and I extended it to them, the weight was lifted. And I, I don't even know how to articulate. That was the door opened. And I started to get a lot more of these downloads during meditation. And during one, I had an explanation of where, before I thought God was some sort of judgmental entity that if you did bad, you were, going to be cast into hell. And so I brought all that into my altered reality experience.
Mm.
But during this one particular meditation, I was shown how we are divinely connected to life source energy, God, the divine spark that breathes through all of us, that blooms a flower. And so I started to look at God differently, more of like in an energetic form. And life started to play with me and we were able to engage. And once I was able to lift the veil of the wounds and start looking at life from a different perspective and recognize my connection to God, and how it was shown to me was it's kind of like a light, and you know how a light has rays. Well, we are those rays. The spirit is the rays. We come into physical form, into our soul comes into this physical form, and then we're here to do this journey. And the way I received it was God being omnipotent and amazing and love and light and is in that realm all the time. The only way that God can truly experience all of it is through us. And so, um, if you're somebody had shared with me one time, it was kind of like you don't know the contrast, right? If you're not exposed to it. Like if you're sitting in a cabin in the winter and you're drinking your tea with your loved one and you just feel so warm and buzzy, you wouldn't know that if you hadn't been out in the freezing cold, right? And so in this meditation, it was I was being shown that we are an extension of God, and through us, God is experiencing itself. Um, what I also was shown was that light that was coming in that I thought was lava. It actually poured in like liquid. It was the love and light of God wanting to shine the light on my boo-boos so that I could see it from a different perspective. But I was so afraid of God. I was so afraid of life. And I didn't even know that going into this, but I recognized how afraid I was. And so, what I know as a hospice nurse, I had seen many times people move through what we call terminal agitation. Right? We give them medication and we help them through that. I didn't necessarily understand it. But now that I've been through this experience, what I know is that as people are moving through end of life, if there are some of those deep boo boos that they haven't looked at, they don't realize that those might be some of their drivers. I truly believe that people are moving through the same thing I was moving through,
Mhm.
where that is being brought up from the belly of the soul. The soul doesn't hold on to it, but it'll hold it there until it can be looked at
Mhm.
and re-examined. And so I believe that people's stuff is coming up, and it is called terminal agitation. And people look just like I did, trying to run, trying to get out of the bed, picking at
Yeah.
their clothes. It's very, it's not a comfortable thing to see somebody moving through it. But what I know is it will not last. And what I know for the person that's either watching it or the person who might be going through it is that it's there to help you. It just needs to be looked at, and it will be looked at it from a completely different perspective. It will be looked at from the truth. The reason those people did what they did to me is because they had their own wounds and their own filters. Innately, we are divine, beautiful essence of God, but we become conditioned as we do this thing called life. And in our conditioning, we forget who we are, the essence of who we are. I had no clue that I was even actually connected until this, but I am absolutely sure that you cannot be separate from God. And so I shared this with people as if they find themselves in this place where there's anxiety or fear coming up at the end of life, it's there to help you. If you'll just hang on, be open. I think that if I had maybe had this in my awareness, I might not have been so afraid. So I want to share it for so that people don't have to go through the fearful part. Hang on, it'll be shown to you so you can look at it from a different perspective, and then it will leave, because the only thing that we take back with us is love. We are love. We come into this world and are exposed to contrast to help God understand himself, but we have to dump the garbage before we go back. And so if we don't do it in this lifetime, it might happen towards the end of life, and it can look kind of challenging, but it's all good. It's all good.
Oh, Michelle. First of all, shout out to Dominique Schurter who found you and sent me your video and said this would be a fabulous guest. And she is, once I saw a little of your video, I agreed. You have had such a rich experience
Yeah.
and so much love, compassion, and wisdom as a
Mm,
result of you definitely had a near-death experience.
yeah.
For sure, there's so much that I want to unpack with you. First of all, thank you for sharing and thank you for being courageous enough to share your distressing near-death experience. I usually don't have guests who go to a hell place just because my intention on the platform is to reshape that, right? Just like what you were talking about, the narrative that God is this punishing God, but it's your takeaways are so profound, and there needs to be room for people who have had experiences that they didn't just see angels and beautiful lights and colors and all that. So thank you for your courage for sharing with us. I wanted to ask you, I know when you finally, and I put myself in your position as you're growing up and you're thinking that you don't have a mom, right? Because your dad told you. When you finally talked to her on the phone, was there any closure there for you?
No, actually, it was probably more of a non-closure. She
Mhm.
was very sick when I spoke to her, and I never did get to meet her. My father, again, bless his heart, he was the little boy in my
Mhm. Oh,
vision.
wow. Okay.
Yeah. Um, he people would maybe say he was a narcissist. He was very insecure. He didn't always tell the truth because he didn't want people to see his boo-boos. He was very insecure. And obviously, based on what I saw from his childhood, I completely understand that he was just a broken soul. And so it, he would say things to me in the beginning, like, we're going to talk to her. And of course, I'm confused because I walk through at home from school and he said, we're going to call your mom. And I didn't even have time to even process. And he said, and if she says she loves you, she doesn't mean it. So these things are being, yes.
I say
So
that.
I am talking to this lady on the phone, and I remember her saying, she didn't know her father. She didn't want me to grow up not knowing about her. She wanted to try and come and see me, but that never came out. But it blew open the insecurities, the disconnect, I had no idea who I was at that point. It was just like, who in the heck am I? I don't even know who I am. A funny little story. My birth mother named me Candance Michelle, and it's Candance. Well, when we moved to Florida, I was in fourth grade and they were calling that name. And I just sat there because I had no idea that's who I was. So it was things like that that just kind of like added up. And of course, bless my stepmother's heart, I took a lot of that out on her, right? Oh, but you don't know until you know.
Right, right.
So it didn't, I never did get to meet her, but I know that she has been my angel, and I absolutely know it. Yeah,
Oh,
she's been
okay.
watching over me. There's been so many times that I've been guided in the right direction when I was trying to push in the wrong direction. And so I feel her presence now. And I'm so grateful for her journey and her bringing me into this world. I'm just so grateful for that. And I'm so grateful for my father too. I'm grateful for all of my past because I wouldn't be where I am today without it. If I didn't know the extreme contrast, I don't think I would know this extreme love and acceptance and peace and joy. And I don't think I would know it.
That is one of the things that you have shared, Michelle, that is so powerful. You've had a very dense experience in terms of trauma and things happening to you as a child, which can be the most damning things for us, right? That people may never get over those kind of events. But to hear your clarity and your resolve in terms of forgiveness, and to
Mm.
even have your abusers show up in your NDE as children, I
I
think it's so that this is so profound.
right. Yeah. I mean, had I known who they were, I don't know if I would have been so forgiving. And you know what I'm saying in the
Yeah.
beginning, but when I saw them in their innocence and what they went through, I couldn't help but just have love and compassion for them.
So you have spoken things about forgiveness. I'm going to read one of your quotes. You say unconditional love is loving a person for just their presence in your life. Explain that a bit. I get it, but I want to make sure we all get what you were saying.
Yeah. So that came to me, and I applied it to, like my ex-husband, because of course you go through that unwinding and that turmoil. The people that I had projected that something was wrong with them, right? Or whatever. What I recognized, I was able to release everyone after this happened. So, like with my ex husband, I recognized that he is a soul during his journey, and he played, even though there was some villain in him too. We all have a little villain and we all have a little angel. As my dad and my abusers, they're playing the villain in my story was so impactful because it did expose me to the darkness, right? The sadness, those things that we try to avoid. Again, I don't think that I would know the profound peace and forgiveness and joy that I have now had I not been able to set them free. And just the fact that they are playing the villain in your story, wow. that's a hard role to play, you know? So it's kind of like you even have more compassion because they had to play that part. And I've been a villain too, not, not to that extreme,
Mhm,
but I've been a villain too. And
mhm,
so ultimately, Loretta, one of the biggest things was I was able to do it outside first, right? Extend it to others. The biggest hurdle that I had was extending that same love and grace to myself. But once I did, it was freedom, like freedom. And like I said, the serendipities, the things that are happening in life, the fact that we have connected, you start to see everything kind of as a little miracle through the eyes of love. And no need for alcohol, right? I don't want to
mhm.
miss any more of life. I am so awake to life and I'm doing it hardcore. Even the bumps and the grinds, I know that there is divine guidance in all of it. So I'm kind of stepping back, getting out of the way, moving from that love space where the source of God and light resides. And life has just become very magical, even in the hard times, even in the hard times.
It is so your entire journey and the wisdom that you've acquired is so consistent with the Course in Miracles. You and I had this conversation, and it was not lost on me that after the accident, before you even had recollection of going to the hospital or anything, you felt this peace. And
Yeah,
your lesson is about God's peace and joy. And, it's just profound what you are saying. Even talking about unconditional love in terms of we have been conditioned to love according to what the person does for us, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
What
That's a
we,
great way to put it.
yeah,
Right. And that's what I thought love was, an exchange sort of thing. I didn't
right.
know there was so much more to it.
Right. But now for you to say, you know what, I love you regardless of what role I have given you to play in my life,
There
right?
you go. There you go. Yeah.
Uh, because you've given me, it's making me think of my ex-husband, because you've given me this dense experience, I'm able to step into the light and know myself and know the
Yes.
truth of who God is. And it's just seeing life through the lens that you describe is such a freeing, like you said, a freeing experience.
It really is. It really is. There is not, I will still have little things that might trigger me for a moment, but I can hop back into that place of, if another thing that was profound that was shown to me is um, when someone is, say, coming at you for something, they're not happy and they're giving you a hard time. In my prior life, I would always take that and own it myself, right? But what I was shown is that when something is within you, so anger, sadness, all those dense emotions, they come out of you. That's like it's coming out of the other person. And so if you can stand grounded in who you are and not get caught up in your boo-boos and your insecurities as they're coming at you, you can see that they are looking through tainted glasses, if you will. You can see their boo-boos and you do not have to be attached to it. And you can love them even when they're being assholes because because you can see the bigger picture. You can see they're coming from their wounds. Um, and when we can get our emotions, our internal guidance that have been given to us by God to say that if we're feeling anything on a low vibration, that negative, dense, gross, sadness, jealousy, all those negative, dense emotions that don't feel good, that not feeling good is God saying, this is it. This is where we need to look at something differently because
Yeah.
however you're viewing this, it's taking you down on the low vibration. It's not the truth, but there is something that you can clear within you and recognize that the negative energies and the negative feelings that you're having has nothing to do with the other person. It's all within. I had no idea that worked that way. And once that was shown to me, I was like, holy wow, I don't have to be responsible for anybody else's sadness or happiness, right?
Yes.
Because that's a big burden to carry for somebody to think that you're going to be a source of happiness or sadness. Nobody wants to own that. I mean, well, they want to be the happy source, but they don't, and they're actually not. They're actually not. So that was a huge eye opener for me. So I can stand in a place of where there's a bunch of discord going on around me and not get pulled into it. I can keep my vibrations. It might dip, but then I say, okay, God, I know there's something in there for me, but it doesn't stay. It doesn't stay anymore.
Michelle, I'm over here shouting. Like I'm over here like,
Me too.
yes, because our emotions are our entire internal guidance. It is
Absolutely.
our internal guidance. And I talk about this a lot. So I love, you know, and I always say we should teach this to children,
Absolutely. Absolutely. In
you
fact, I've
know?
started a little thing for children because
Okay.
if we were taught these things, in the classroom, there's so many things that we're taught that we never use. But if we were taught who we truly are, that we are divinely connected, that we cannot be separate from source, that we are so much more powerful than we've ever been told. And once you step into that power and that divinity and you're walking with God, I had no idea that life could be like, I had no clue. And I had been searching for it. Remember, I had the hole in my love cup. I looked, I looked all over the place for it.
Yeah.
And I made some bad decisions looking for it. But it's been here the whole time and I did not even know it.
I really, that is my vision, Michelle, of a higher vibrational world that's for us to create is to
Absolutely.
reshape the curriculum at schools, to maybe get outside of the cold building with the hard chairs and have our children learn things that have nothing to do with the soul, right? And math and English and all those other things are very important. But yeah, to me, there should be a course about how do we create. We are creative
Absolutely.
beings. Our speak, the power of our speech, and those kinds of things. So I'm putting that out there for us to do it. Come on, everybody who's listening to this video, to have that
Absolutely.
intention. Yes.
I love that. I'm putting it out there with you too, because I think that is when the children, and I've done this a little bit with my grandchildren now that I'm such a different person than I was before. But now that I know these little secrets and these tips and tricks, I try to incorporate it as they're growing up. And I can already see the conditioning happening. I have a little hummingbird that just came by. I can see the conditioning happening even in my little 3-year-old grandson, right? It's just part of it. But if we can give them the truth and they can hold on to that when those challenging times come in life, man, it might make a big difference. Oh, it will absolutely make a big difference. What am I saying? It might absolutely would make a big difference. And I
Absolutely.
think that we are in that, things are shifting and I can see this actually happening and coming to fruition. So thanks for putting that energy out there.
Yes, because it's us that's gonna, we are talking about conditioning. We've just been so used to waiting for something to happen, right? Or waiting for somebody to save us, right? But
Yes,
it is
yes,
us. It is us
it is
that
us.
is going to create the world that we wish,
Yeah.
So I get excited about this kind of stuff, girl.
Oh, me too. It is, yeah, it is in my bones now. I'm constantly thinking about it, and life is just very beautiful, and it's accessible to everyone. Everyone has this, um, and so to be able to share that with people and let them know, and nobody's left out. Everybody has access to this. It's just a matter of tapping into it.
Oh, I'm so happy talking to you for real. Like my vibration is like I'm in the ninth dimension right now. Um, so interestingly enough, you are not afraid of death now,
Oh,
right?
absolutely not. I look forward to it, actually. I'm not one of those that, you hear people that they have had these beautiful, wonderful, amazing love experiences in their NDE and they want to get back to that and they don't they have a hard time integrating. I'm not one that is like jumping to get back because I felt like I felt I've made the connection here. I think that hell is a state of mind.
Mhm.
And I think that
Mhm.
heaven can be claimed right here and right now. What happens when the soul leaves the physical form and that doorway's opened? That's an expansion that is beyond, that to return to the love of God and where the source from which we came. Wow.
Whew.
But the mindset of hell, I don't believe in a hell. I believe that it's a mindset. And again, I know for sure that the only thing we take back with us is love. And so getting that taken care of, what if there's anything that's blocking you from love right here and now, let's go ahead and get it taken care of so we can just live the best life that we can live until it's time to go back to the soul experience.
I'm getting the chills, getting the chills, getting the chills. I love your story. I love your journey. I also want to just mention something that I think is important is after your NDE, it took time for you
Yeah.
to integrate
Mhm.
those downloads and the love and you girl, I gotta learn how to meditate like you. Your meditations are amazing.
Yeah, and you can't make it up. And it's in there. Like when you're in your meditation, just listen. And the voice that comes that's not yours, that has all this wisdom, it's right there. You just got to tune into it. And it's just like, holy wow. Yeah. I hear you.
Yes, that's my goal, y'all. That is my goal
Yeah.
to get into a an active meditation life. So, before I let you go, Michelle, I have to hear one of your amazing. First of all, thank you for your time being a hospice worker. I think those kind of jobs, being a doula, being a hospice worker, it's such a profound position to love and hold space for people, right? So,
Right.
do you have any stories to share from your time?
Oh, there are so many stories, Loretta. We would be on here for hours if I told you all of them. Let me think of a real good one. It is such a magical, magical place to be in the presence of somebody who is moving through transition, where the spirit soul is leaving the physical form. We don't talk a whole lot about death and dying. There's a whole lot of fear around it. But if you can move past that and realize the beauty and what is actually happening as the soul departs from the physical form, there are things that happen that you can't make it up. There is something going on there. There's so much more than what we know. And so to be in the presence of somebody who's passing, even as we talked about the terminal agitation, now that people are learning about this, we can, when somebody is moving through that, that is their truth, right? And so we want to have them behave. We want to put them back in the bed. We want to negate what they're going through, but that can actually cause people to get a little confused. So if and I am going to share a story with you, but I do want to just reiterate that if you know of somebody that's moving through that, just hold that sacred space for them. Let them know it's going to be okay. It's not going to last. Just as in birth, it can be a little bumpy. We don't remember. On the back end, it can be a little bumpy, but it's not going to last. It will not last. And all the things that might come up are just be coming up to help you so that you could look at them from the truth, from the perspective through Christ consciousness or through God eyes. So I want to make sure that I share that. That's super important, because the fear of death, it doesn't need to be fearful. You're
Yeah.
you're held the whole time. Probably one of my favorite stories, and I might have shared this one with you, but I'm going to share this one because it's just so incredible. So this probably happened about 10 years ago. A lady had Alzheimer's dementia. She severe. She was at the end stage of life, in active transition. I thought usually that's about 72 hours before the soul departs the body. She had no recollection of who anyone was. All of her body functions were having to be done by other people. She was that advanced in her dementia. And she was in that window where I thought she was getting ready to pass. And so they had called a grandson in from, I want to say, Connecticut. And so the family was at the bedside. We knew that we were getting close to that time. The grandson arrived. And shortly after he arrived, this lady woke up almost back to her pre-dementia self. They had a conversation, talked about when he was younger, when the kids were, for almost an hour. This lady engaged like there was nothing wrong.
Mm.
When she slipped back into her coma and she was gone 4 hours later. But the, the rally, we call this a rally where people have this surge of energy. Hers was the most prominent that I've ever seen as far as being able to come back and fully function from non-functioning for years. So what is that, right? Like, is that the light of God? Like, it's magical. I've seen spirit leave people twice, and that is an amazing presence to be with. It kind of looks like a film, like gas, where you it's distorted as it leaves the body. You can see behind it, but the sensation, what's happening in that moment, if you
Mm.
can stay present and not be afraid of it, is so magical.
Mm.
And there are so many stories I could go on and on, but the main one that I want to really reiterate again is if fear does pop up during that time, hang on. It's not going to last. It's not going to last.
Yeah, you know what? I really want to hold space for you in that point that you're making. So when there's fear, when a person is near death, do you feel like they're in a certain way having an NDE experience, or they're
I
seeing
do.
things?
I
Okay.
do. Yeah. And so, we had talked about the NDE and the NDE like experience, the altered reality experience. I don't know exactly what is happening in
Yeah.
the chemistry of the brain, but absolutely, people
Wow.
are the visioning that people see. Visioning is beautiful compared to terminal agitation. Visioning is where you will see someone engaging with the energy that they
Mhm.
see that we cannot physically see. It is the most beautiful thing. The visionary reach is a very common thing. It's very peaceful when people are in that state. And but I do believe that people are going through those NDE experiences, and I believe that their junk is being brought up to be looked at, and then it can be released so that they can return home.
Wow, that's beautiful. This is profound. We are profound spiritual beings.
We
I just have to
absolutely are.
say that. Yeah, right?
Absolutely. Just having this human experience, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Did I hear you say that you were writing a book, Michelle?
I finished it, and I
Oh,
just sent it off to 3 literary agents. A girlfriend is in publishing, and she said, we're going to do this the old fashioned way. It's called From Fear to Freedom,
okay.
Remembering the Light Within. And so I just sent that off, and I'm waiting to hear it. But I guess it takes a little bit longer to get it out when you do the traditional thing, but we'll see how it goes. Yeah.
Well, definitely, definitely, definitely let me know once that's published. I definitely want to put that link under the description box. I want to just help it. And when I jotted that down, I'm like, I'm not sure if I heard her say this, but if she didn't say she's writing a book, I'm gonna encourage her to do that because yes, yes, your experience, your wisdom, the vibration of your speech it really should be shared. So I'm excited. I really am excited about you doing that. And so talk a little bit about your YouTube channel for us.
This is one of those things, again, you just can't make it up. I am not working in hospice right now. I am at a place where I've been in medicine for over 30 years. It's time for me to come out. And even in hospice, there's some, fraudulent billing and that sort of thing. And I can't participate in that anymore where I am right now. And so very scary for me, right? I'm almost 60 years old, and I love hospice. It's my passion, but I feel that am being moved out of that to do something more. And so I'm in that place right now where I'm moving through the unknown, but things are just flowing to me that again, you can't make it up. So these podcasts have been coming up. I didn't speak about this I just started speaking about it in October. And again, because, it's personal, it's scary, but I realized the message was profound. So the podcasts have come up. I was invited to speak at the International Association of Near Death Studies
Yeah.
um, August. I can't even believe that's happening. Like, how does that happen?
Mhm.
Um, and I finished my book in this time that I've been off. Things are just flowing so easy, and I'm actually getting ready to open a wellness, IV wellness and health business, and continue the journey to share the message. So it's just you can't make it up. I should probably be in so much fear right now, but I'm not. And I say to people, I am living this in real time. So if this doesn't work, you guys are going to know. But guess what? It's working. It's
Yeah.
so working. Like it's just coming left and right. The people that I've met, I was thinking, how am I going to get an attorney to go over all this paperwork? And limited funds. I'm not working. And a friend said, talk to this lady. She says, I'll do it for free. It's like it's just it keeps
Yeah.
flowing.
Oh, I
So
love that.
tap into that heart space
Yeah.
because that's where it's at.
Yeah. If people would like to contact you, Michelle, are you open to that? And if so, do you have an email address or a way for them to contact you?
Yes. So you'd asked me about the YouTube. I created a YouTube. It's called Sacred Crossings. It's about life and death transition. So I've just started that one as well. You could look me up there, or my email is lifelineconnect@yahoo.com, or on Facebook. And I'm still learning all about this. I'm just a regular old person that was a nurse, right? So I'm learning about all the YouTube. All of this is brand new to me. I don't have a website or anything yet, but that's probably going to be next. So we'll
Oh,
see.
yes. Just like I've shared with you, like now is your time. I feel like just hearing your journey, like the entire universe is just setting everything up for you to share this beautiful, really love.
Yeah,
Talking about love and non-judgment, and this is where we are. This is what we need. So
absolutely.
thank you for your messages. Do you have any final words of wisdom before I read your closing remarks?
No, I think that I'm pretty complete. Just thank you so much for creating this platform where people can come and speak about this so that people can kind of wake up to a different way.
Yeah, when you were talking about reshaping your perception of God, I was just literally, getting the chills because I'm like, this is why I do this. It's an entryway to allow us all to reshape our perceptions of the divine, whatever word we want to give it, God,
Yeah,
universe. So
absolutely.
beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much for joining. And Michelle, your closing remarks are as follows. After your distressing near death experience, you asked yourself a question that stirs and invokes waves of love, growth, and healing. You asked yourself, what is this trying to teach me? This very question, if sincerely pursued, holds the key to unlock the chains of perceived victimhood, resentment, and stagnancy. This question, what is this trying to teach me? Coupled with open hearted, honest investigation, is incredibly transformative because it invites the question asker to actively participate in uncovering layers of conditioning beliefs that no longer serve us. This simple yet profound process of self inquiry has the power to flip the all too common question from, why did this happen to me? To, why did this happen to me?
There you
What am
go.
I trying to show myself?
Mhm.
How am I a vibrational match for this experience? This questioning requires remarkable courage and yields immeasurable growth.
Mm,
Michelle, your willingness to understand, the subconscious beliefs behind the content presenting itself in your life serves as a guiding light and example for all of us to grow and expand. It is encouraging to know all we need to do is ask the question, sit in silence, and the answers will flow to us in abundance. We need only ask and be willing to receive the answers. Thank you so much for having the courage to unpack the events in your life. And by doing so, you've been able to extend the wisdom and downloads you brought back from the other side of the veil. Thank you so much for sharing your energy with us today. It has been such a pleasurable experience having you. And Michelle, we end with a heart. We got to throw up them hearts. And thank you for joining the show. Thank you, everyone. If there was anything that was said today, please hit that like button, subscribe, check out Michelle's YouTube channel. Stay focused on, keep your ear to the ground as far as her book being released. Like, yes, we definitely want to have you on again.
Oh, thank you
Yeah.
so much. And thank you so much for this platform. And your closing remarks were spot on, spot on. One thing that I would add is if that question doesn't get it, ask, how can I see this differently?
And I see this. Woo,
If
girl,
they
that's a Course in Miracles question.
Is it?
How can I see this differently? This, I think that's a lesson. That's a
It
course.
it might be. So I was in the Course in Miracles for many years, but I have this cheesecloth brain from my traumatic brain injury. So some things I remember, some things I don't. So interesting. I did not realize that that was from there.
Again, the alignment with the course
Mm.
and the near death experience. So how profound. Yes. Yes.
I'm going to get back into my Course in Miracles book. That's been away for probably 15 years. I got to get back in there. I still have it, so I'll
Yes.
get back into it. Yeah.
So it's been a pleasure. We're lifelong friends. I'm just letting you know that.
Oh, yes, I already know.
It's been a pleasure having you on. This is
Thank you so much, Loretta.
yes, and I'll put all your information in the description box. And everyone who is watching, I pray and I know that this has blessed you. Please forward it to people who you think would benefit from Michelle's wonderful journey. And until next time, y'all, we love you.
I love you.
Yes, bye bye.
Thanks, Loretta.
You're so beautiful, girl.